right. So here we are. Welcome to another episode of the Franchise Academy podcast. And I have an old friend of mine, Barry Moltz, with me, and just a great guy. And we hit it off when we first met at the Publicity Summit, Steve Harrison's Publicity Summit in New York City. Oh my God, that had to be about 4 years ago. So Barry has a great radio show called the Small Business Radio Show out of Chicago. Steve Harrison's. The radio show is on 820 in Chicago. He has 6 books. His latest book is How to Get Unstuck, 25 Ways to Get Your Business to Grow Again. So Barry, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. You know, and I have 6 books, but my wife hasn't read any of them. She says, I live with you. That's enough. I know all those stories, she said.
My wife too. Funny stuff. And we get bad internet connection messages. I apologize for that. But it's great to have you on. So what got you going? This is my pleasure. What got you going with this latest book, How to Get Unstuck?
Well, I find that a lot of small business owners, they get their company to a certain point and it's not as successful as they hoped it would be, but it's not so unsuccessful. They have to go do something else and they don't know how to make it better. So they're stuck. And it's usually people have been in business for 3 to 5 years, and they're usually stuck around one of 5 core principles. They're usually stuck in sales and marketing, or management and leadership, or the customer experience, or cash flow, or productivity. And so I help them get unstuck in those areas and try to move forward, because when, as you know, the famous expression, when you're inside the bottle, sometimes it's hard to read the label on the jar. So that's what I help them with.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you work specifically with small businesses, and any industries specific?
No, not at all. I mean, I was just with a client yesterday that is in the, what they do is they wash out hazardous waste totes. So, you know, a lot of businesses are really similar. And I think many times, Tom, when you're not in the business, you can actually help more because you have an outside perspective.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I often hire coaches myself to help me with all the little things that I do. So I totally appreciate that. You're based in Chicago, but you work with people all over the country, right?
Right. I'm on an airplane every single week. That is something that's required in my marriage. I have to be gone 1 or 2 nights a week. The key to a happy marriage is not being home every night. So that's what's worked for the last 30 years.
Yeah, I agree. When my wife and I were working before we got into franchising, she was a New York City police officer, and I was a transit worker in the subway. We worked opposite hours. And now we're married 31 years, so I guess it worked.
It worked. Everyone needs a little bit of space, you know?
Yep, no question. So what's the worst kind of entrepreneurial story that you've heard, or maybe that you've experienced yourself, that you were able to?
Well, you know, there's a lot of worse stories. I mean, my own personal story is that I worked for IBM for 10 years. I then left to become vice president of sales for one of my clients in a computer consulting organization. I was then fired. And then I said, well, I'm going to start my own thing. But my first business, I went out of business. My second business, I was kicked out of business by my 2 partners. And fortunately, in my third business, I was able to sell it, pay back the bank, the $1.3 million, make a bunch of money. And then my wife said, we're done. If you want to stay together, you better go do something else.
Yeah. And so you weren't expecting to get kicked out of your own business by your partners. What was that about?
What was it about? I had found these 2 gentlemen in the classified section of the Chicago Tribune. And it's probably a good idea if you're looking for a boat or a car, if you want to go to the classified sections, but not a good place to find business partners. And they decided after a year that I wasn't the kind of business partner they wanted to have, and they wanted to bring someone else in and resell my shares for a bunch more money. I'm happy to report that a year later they went out of business. So not that I'm revengeful, but it's a good ending to the story.
Yeah, no, things always work out. And that's probably one of the biggest things that we learn in entrepreneurialism.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are you most excited about right now that's happening in your business?
Well, what I'm most excited about now is that, when businesses grew in the past, most people felt they had to add people in order to grow their business. And as we know, people are expensive, but with all the cloud technologies, it's a lot easier to grow with intelligent automation. So to put together the right process, the right tools that really can supercharge your people to get more profit. And I think as we put more AI into small businesses, it's really going to be the leverage they need to make a lot more money.
Absolutely. So I want to take you back to the IBM days. You work at a job, and then you suddenly get fired.
Well, I didn't get fired from IBM. I quit, but I got fired when I quit IBM. I went to go work for one of my clients because, at IBM, after 10 years, I came across a boss where he used to have sales contests where first prize was lunch with him. And I'm thinking, like, what's second prize? 2 lunches with you? So I decided to leave there and become more entrepreneurial with one of my clients. But then a year later, he fired me. And so then I went on my own entrepreneurial journey. So, that's really the way it happened.
So they always say that you quit your boss, not your job. So that's what happened to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really true because, people want to be with people they love and they care about. And if you think your boss is incompetent, then why do you want to stay there? And it was funny because this gentleman, we can call him George, my former boss. Well, we can call him George Durow. I actually saw him 25 years later, and he was exactly the same, right? I mean, he hadn't changed. So, it just wasn't a fit. But I love my 10 years at IBM. It was a great experience. They taught me a lot. I was fortunate enough that they taught me how to be a manager and a leader. And I think that's a big problem for a lot of small business owner entrepreneurs today is they're really good at the business, but they have no idea how to manage and lead people. When I was at IBM, I became a manager, they sent me away for a month to go to management charm school so they could teach me how to be a manager. And we had all these role plays. Small business owners, Tom, don't get any of that.
Right. Yeah. As a small business owner, you're on an island by yourself. Yeah. There's really no one to talk to. It's a little bit different, though, in franchising, I have to say, in that, you have your other franchisees to lean on, let alone the corporate office. But a lot of times you get the most help from fellow franchisees, which I would have to say, humbly is one of the best reasons to be in franchising is because you have all that help.
Right.
But then there's folks like you that come in from the outside, look in, examine a business, and see things that are in plain sight, but never in plain sight to the business owner.
Right.
Because like you said, they're inside the bottle, not reading the label, which I love that analogy. And the reason I want to bring up the IBM thing is that there's a lot of people that are listening that are working for a boss, and then they decide I'm not going to leave. They're choosing like unhappiness instead of uncertainty, which actually is where magic happens. So you got to have the impetus or the chutzpah to make that move.
Right.
What finally gave you that, hey man, is there like a defining moment where you're like, screw this, I got to get out?
Yeah, I think that, people only change when they're in an incredible amount of pain, right? Or they'll just keep going because sometimes, as they say, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. I actually had started a side business, or that we now call a side hustle, when I was at IBM because I had read a book about entrepreneurship that really inspired me. So I got together with my best friend, his wife, my girlfriend at the time, who ended up becoming my wife, to start a business, right? That only lasted a couple of years. We went out of business, but it really started inspiring me in what I could do on my own. And then my client, who was an entrepreneur, he wanted me to come over and be part of his entrepreneurial adventure. So that gave me that combined with not wanting to work for my boss anymore, those things together really gave me the courage to leave.
I mean,
But again, it's not, Tom, it's not for everybody. I mean, I think that a lot of people say, well, I should become an entrepreneur because I should become my own boss. I say that if I could hold a real job, Tom, I would, but I can't. That's why I'm an entrepreneur, a small business owner.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. What's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice really is twofold. One is that business is basically about people. It's not as important at what business you're in. It's who you're doing that business with. As I said, I was kicked out of business by new partners. I didn't really know these guys, but then I went into a business of selling technical software, which I didn't know anything about. But I went into business with a guy who was the husband of a friend of mine from college, and we really grooved together. And that really makes the difference. Who you're with is really important. The second thing is that business is not really about profits. It's about cash flow. You could have profits on a piece of paper, but if you have no cash in the bank, that's what makes your business grow. That's what makes you be able to draw money out and support yourself, is the cash flow, and understanding the difference is really key.
It is a big difference. And I think a lot of people get hurt, even in franchising, where, I remember myself in my first franchise, which was a smoothie franchise. I was cash rich, but at the beginning I was working out of a shoebox because I wasn't an entrepreneur. I didn't know how to do the numbers really.
Right.
And I thought I was making a lot of money. And then when somebody sat me down to do the numbers, I realized I wasn't making as much as I thought. In that first year.
Because what's going on in your head is not always what's on paper. And listen, this happened to me. I had in the mid 80s, I got an MBA in finance and marketing from Northwestern University. When I sold my business in 1999, I still couldn't read a balance sheet. And as a result, they chopped $1 million off the price of the balance sheet because I had made some bad assumptions. So this was personal to me. And if me having an MBA in finance and marketing from one of the leading business schools could do it, small business owners, they're never taught this kind of stuff. And I have to tell you, Tom, accountants don't help teach them this because I believe too many of them want to kind of keep them stupid in this area so they can secure their job.
Interesting point. And there might be something to that, but I feel that, if you ever read, I'm sure you read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And that's what he talks about, right? The average business owner is someone who's a great technician at whatever they do, and they decide to open up a business, but know nothing about business.
Right.
And that's where somebody like you is it's invaluable. It's crazy not to have a business coach, especially somebody like you with that experience that could really help move the business to the next level. Otherwise, you're just treading water forever if you last.
It's good, Tom. It's what small business owners say is the most important thing to have in their business is a mentor, whether it's paid or unpaid, but someone you can talk to because you don't know everything. You're inside and it is lonely. It's good to be able to bounce those decisions off of someone to see what the right perspective is. I was with a client the other day and I knew nothing about his business, but because I didn't know anything about his business, I could bring a fresh perspective to what's going on because we have so many assumptions, especially if we've been in that business doing the same way for a very long time.
Yeah, no, amen to that. What is, can you share one personal business habit that you employ to be successful in business?
Sure. I think that productivity is a huge problem these days because people say that they don't have enough time to get everything done. And to me, that's a lie. You've got plenty of time. You just don't implement the focus and the attention in order to get that done. So what I do is the night before, I always say, what are the one or two things that I need to get done to make sure that tomorrow is successful? And I do those things first before I log on to email or social media or get involved in anything else. And I know that once I do those two things, the day will be successful because once I get onto email or phone calls, the day gets away from you and you're not going to get the things done that are important and critical to your business. So you got to employ ruthless prioritization. A to-do list just doesn't cut it.
That is a really great nugget for anyone who's listening in business, franchised or not. That is it. They say that if you own the first hour of your day, you own the day. Right. And that's exactly it.
I love that. I've never heard that before.
I didn't make it up, unfortunately.
Oh, I thought I heard it here from Tom Scarda.
I wish. Damn. No, I think it was actually Darren Hardy who used to be the publisher at Success Magazine. But wait, maybe he doesn't know. So yeah, I'll take it.
Well, I heard it from Tom Scarta first. So that's all that matters when I repeat the story.
I appreciate that. What is really one myth about, your industry that you would like to bust right here, right now?
I think one of the myths is that anybody can help you in your business. I think, a lot of people that come and they say that they are a coach, right? They say they're going to help you. But for me, the reason that I'm able to help people is that I was you. I am you. Whatever you were going through, I went through myself, right? You don't know how to keep your pipeline full. I did that. You're having problems with your employees. You don't know who to hire. I did that, right? You're having problems with cash flow because it's keeping you up at night. I did that. So I've been through those things. And unfortunately, I've had to learn the painful lessons. So maybe I can help you now not make the same mistake more than once.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And I'm kind of doing the same thing on the franchise side. Best practices. I was very successful in my first franchise, sold it, semi-retired at 41 years old, bought a second franchise, failed and lost almost everything I had. And that's what made me a franchise expert.
Right, exactly.
And so I try to teach people to not do what I did on the second one.
Right, exactly. And that's very common, because when you have that initial success, you almost think that you're bulletproof, right? You're King Midas and you can do anything. But unfortunately, sometimes it just gets you lazy and it gets you too overconfident, sets you up for failure the second time.
That's what happened. I thought, I could walk on water after I sold that first one. Thought I could do anything. I didn't ask for any advice.
And that's a problem, because that's only been done once, Tom, walk on water. So, no one else can do it.
I know, but I wear flip-flops like Jesus, so I thought I could do it, and it didn't work out. But I think it's really important to talk to somebody when you're going into business, even not a franchise. If you're just thinking about, I love to bake cakes, I'm going to be a baker. There's a lot to know than just baking cakes when you're starting a business like a bakery.
Right. So, baking the cake is the service or product you provide. There's so many things around it, right? How do I bring customers in? How do I hire people? How do I manage people? How do I, pay all my bills? There's just how do I make the experience of getting cakes wow, so customers keep coming back? There's just so much more to it than just the core product or service. That's the challenge that small business owners face.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Speaking my language there, Barry. So are there any like tech hacks that you use in your business that you could share?
Sure. Well, I'll give you one non-tech hack. The way that I help the focus is I actually have this little sticky note. I don't know if you can see it. It says focus that I put on my monitor. So when I'm not focusing, I look at the sticky note and I go, focus, focus, focus. It's like an interruption interrupts the pattern, right? Because we all, we don't get distractions. We actually go looking for those kinds of distractions. So that's my one non-tech focus. I also have a lock screen on my phone that says it's locked for a reason, stupid. Or sometimes I'll put rubber bands around my phone just so I can't open it up. So I'm trying to help myself, because of course, Jerry Maguire is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
But that's my probably non-tech type of thing. The other thing, the best tech thing for me is I use a CRM, because I'm not that smart to really remember when I'm supposed to do something, what happened the last time when I talked to the last customer, because people contact me all the time. So I think having a CRM that you use in your business is just so important.
I agree. I've been in this franchise consulting gig for 14 years, but just last year invested in HubSpot and as a CRM, and it has changed my life.
That's great. Yeah. It's I think it's important, because it becomes the brains of your business, and you can become a lot smarter. Like, people will email me back, go, I can't believe you remembered. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't remember. It's the computer.
Right. Yeah. And I can't live without it now. And it works so well, but it does so many things for me with automated emails. I mean, it takes time, right? It takes time to build it up and make it work, but then it saves you hundreds, if not thousands of hours down the road.
Right. Because remember, it's automated marketing. And the only way that we keep our pipeline full is to constantly do marketing. And especially if you're a solopreneur, you can't be doing the marketing when you're doing the work. So this does it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Aside from your 6 illustrious books, are there any other books that you would recommend to an entrepreneur?
Well, first of all, I love everything that Seth Godin has written on marketing. I highly recommend you sign up for his daily email, because it's usually a short words of wisdom, which are fantastic. The other one is that I've loved for a long time, Tim Sanders' Love is the Killer App, because again, business is really about relationships with people, right? And now even business with customers are about that. You know, Tom, people no longer want to just buy your stuff, right? They want to have an experience with your company. And I think so many times that goes for franchises where you might be selling some kind of commodity. They want to have a seemingly personal relationship with your business, and they want to have a wow experience. That's what they're going to come back for. And that's what they're going to talk about on the internet and social media or the reviews.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. And we're going to put that on the franchiseacademy.com, those recommendations. So that was very, very cool. Seth Godin is genius, man. I could just read his stuff all day long.
Yeah, he's been very kind to me. He's been on my radio show 3 or 4 times, and he's always got some great wisdom.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. I didn't know that you knew him like that. Very nice.
I don't know him, but he's blurbed some of my books and things like that. And we've met a couple times in person. So it's been good. In fact, one of my really close friends actually grew up with him in Buffalo, New York. So that was kind of a cool connection.
Oh, wow. Very cool. So what's a piece of parting advice that you could give to the listeners right here?
Well, one of my things I say at the end of my radio show, it's one of my favorite quotes, is love everyone, trust a few, but paddle your own canoe. So I think it's important to be open to bring other people into your sphere, but trust really needs to be earned. And then ultimately, you can't depend on others for your success. You really got to go after it. So
say it again. I
love everyone, trust a few, but paddle your own canoe.
Paddle your own canoe.
Right, and that's on the, if you want to remember that, paddle your own canoe is on a lot of different water bottles and things like that. You can find it all over the net.
I love that. That's really great. So how could people get in touch with you, Barry?
Well, of course, they can go to my website, which is www.barrymoltz.com, or you can find the Small Business Radio Show online on iTunes, Spotify, Spreaker, any place you can hear a podcast, it's there. So please download, subscribe, listen. We've always got some really interesting guests. Last week, we had the father of modern marketing, Professor Kotler, on, who actually has a new book out talking about the common good as political governments are moving away from trying to provide social good for all their citizens. Now corporations are stepping in and getting involved in all sorts of different causes as customers want them to take a stand on things.
Wow. And what's that book again?
His book is called Common Good.
Common Good.
By Dr. Phil Kotler. He's the one that wrote The Principles of Modern Marketing, which every business school used to teach marketing. He was the one that talked about the 4 Ps, right? Profit, place, product, and there's another P, which I can never remember.
Well, there's always the people part.
People. All right, there you go. You remember. See, we're making a good team. That's why I can hire you to help me.
There you go. I need your help, but I want to thank you for being on the Franchise Academy podcast. Really, a lot of words of wisdom here, Barry. So we're going to dig in and get you back and do some more. Thanks so much, Tom. And thanks for all the work you do helping franchisees. I appreciate it. And we'll talk soon. Thank you, my friend. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.